So we're here today because I invited Green Bay to jump on the what I'm calling now the DomCast, which I want to try to do a weekly thing with different creators around the space to kind of come on and either talk about their experiences or even just hear my experiences and learn from it, because maybe they haven't dealt with the ins and outs of mental health and or suicide awareness. Primarily for me, it's more suicide awareness than it is overall mental health, but suicidal awareness is definitely the most detrimental part of mental health, because that's usually where it leads to suicidal ideations, suicide attempts, and unfortunately, the worst case possible of death. And I know this topic is super hard to talk to people about, let alone talking to people virtually over the internet and online. And especially as content creators, we typically like to have more positive vibes, fun things going on, jokes, us dying randomly to, street polls on Warzone and stuff like that. So, and I thank you, Green Bay, for accepting this and coming on today to talk with me about this.
Absolutely. I think a little over 3 years now that I've been streaming, and a lot of days it's like I want to stream every day. Monday, Tuesday. There was a time it was Saturday, Sunday, like at 7 days a week. But a human being doesn't smile 7 days a week. A human being experiences a lot of different things in life, and that's been like a hard thing whenever you're not happy and you're not okay, and then but you turn on the camera anyway and you smile and it's jokes and all that. But it also is an outlet too, kind of makes what if you are feeling a certain way, it's always a good like it's actually an outlet in a way.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Is like later on, I'll kind of talk about a story that I had with one of my battle buddies, or we call them that's what we call our friends in the army when we worked together, we deployed together, or done something. They tried changing it to warrior companion, but that sounds really weird. Anyways, streaming is another form of an outlet like you're talking about. And here's the thing: is like you may even be in the worst mental state that day. You jump online, next thing you know, your chat's sitting there popping off. They're making you laugh. They're doing this, and at the end of the day, you've already forgotten about what you're going through that day, and you can go to bed thinking like, "Fuck, man, I got a great community, and I'm feeling a lot better now." And that goes the same way on the other side of things as a viewer. You may be in the dumps about something, and something may have gone up. Something may have gone awry throughout the day, and you jump on and boom, GBK went live. You're like, "Oh crap, let me go check him out. Let's go see what's up." And then we know GBK is going to bring the vibes, with them Rust content, you know what I'm saying? So and then people come in and see my stream, and I make them forget about their worries, and at the end of the night, they're like, "Yo, thank you so much, that was great. I appreciate you guys." And it's just it's what we call silent angels, because I've been in that situation where I've been someone's silent angel without even realizing it. And that's the thing, that's what he's calling a silent angel, is that half the time you don't even realize you saved someone's life by just making that phone call, by texting them, by running into them, or whatever may be the case. And so we just need to, when we're in those depressive moments, just understand we're not alone, and that one person that might be your silent angel might be there to help you out, and there might be a reason for it. Now, what I wanted to talk about too is like I've been, to be honest, man, I've known about suicide since I was 8 years old. My dad's second wife, her sister's boyfriend, blew his head off when I was 8 years old. Not in front of me, thankfully, but like my family had to, like when we had a funeral, we're like, "What happened?" Whatever. We're kids, we're curious, and like they had a hard time like kind of talking to us at the time. Like I don't know if it was like one of those things where like it's the first time they've dealt with it and having to tell kids stuff, but they probably couldn't figure out exactly how to explain it. But they just basically said he used his gun on himself, and that's why they kind of gave it like a whole gun speech about safety and stuff like that. But I didn't really quite understand suicide at that age, obviously. But as I grew older, like in high school, I had a couple friends that had suicidal ideations and or attempts. And then military is the worst of it, because I've had more of my friends in the military commit suicide than I have had combat deaths. And that kind of speaks to volumes, because if you see a lot of advertisements about 22 a day and all this other stuff, and then also how the rise of military suicides. And honestly, 2008, 2009, my first deployment, that was around the time recruiters were having so much struggles with mental health, because they were being put on a lot of pressure, making sure they hit their quotas. If they didn't hit their quotas, they're going to be demoted, or they're going to get kicked out. all this stuff. So like obviously like they're active duty, so that's you know it's equivalent to you being full-time streaming, and that's where you make your money. And so for them to be like threatened, they're going to get kicked out of the army, or they're going to be reduced in rank for not meeting their quotas and getting soldiers in. A lot of them started committing suicide. Thankfully for me, I don't know anybody that was a recruiter that did that. But
I'm
maybe
actually
not.
speaking to
I'm not going to
a
be
human
everywhere else.
being that is actually being genuine, and you feel like you can open up or feel like you can actually connect with some, that person. So I'd agree with that a lot.
Question for you though. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Do you know the difference between a warning sign and risk factors when it comes to suicide? Does anybody in chat know that?
A warning. You said a warning sign and a risk.
And risk factors. Yeah.
I mean, I guess if I had to just, I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know by definition or what exactly, but I feel like, warnings would be maybe physical signs you could see in somebody, or mental changes that you can notice, right? Like,
yep,
things like that.
Yeah, so the risk factors are typically like they're individual or environmental characteristics that increase the likelihood of thinking, planning, and attempting suicide. So it doesn't mean that they're at risk for suicide. It just means that there's a number or significant of risk factors increases, risk of suicide also increases. So like, for example, financial stress, past trauma, relationship difficulties, isolating behavior, family history of suicide, prior suicide attempts, stuff like that. So it may just be one of those things that someone you might know of somebody who you might have prior suicide attempts. Yep. Or even drug and alcohol misuse can also lead to that. But it doesn't mean that they're at risk for suicide. It just means that they're on that path to eventually get there. Disconnection, giving away personal belongings. Yeah, so that's a warning sign. Those are warning signs, right? So risk factors is more or less just understanding the person's history about, things that they've gone through, things that they've struggled with, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're at risk for suicide immediately, right? So warning signs are usually what causes concern with people being at more risk of suicide, because they're doing things like, like Hollywood was saying, giving away their personal belongings or prized possessions, stuff like that. So, or increased anger, increased alcohol use, concerning text, posts, emails, subliminal messages, and stuff like that. I'm just done with today, or I'm just done forever, or things like that. That I've also seen some people posting on Twitter about it, and I've reached out to some people that have said some things that I was like concerned about. And thankfully they're just like, no, I'm just not in my head right now, and this and that. This is what's going on. And I've reached out, and I'm like, yo, like, you can talk about it, man. I'm here to listen. If you need anything, we can jump on a call. Stuff like that. I'm very aware and very. A lot of people know that I'm very active on Twitter, and I watch and I see a lot of things. And when I see concerns, I usually reach out to people, even if I don't even know them. If they're not following me and I'm not following them, I'll be like, yo, and I'm like, you don't know me, but definitely notice something that you've said or posted. I just want to make sure everything's okay. That may just help them be like, what, someone does care. So be on the lookout for warning signs mainly, right? So those are the big ones, and then risk factors are kind of like the kind of like perk your ears up type of thing.
Right. Okay.
But don't necessarily act on anything if you don't see any of the warning signs, or because it also says risk factors, drug and alcohol misuse, right? So that could just be like, yo, GreenBayKill doesn't really drink, and I don't know him of using drugs, but all of a sudden now he's got white powdery stuff on his nose and he's drinking a lot of alcohol all day. It's like, well, that's kind of weird. What's going on, man? I'll probably reach out and be like, yo, I've noticed this in your changing your lifestyle. Is everything all right? Whatever. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, yo, are you planning on killing yourself? Because that could be me just jumping right to it versus, and then nothing's really going on. It's just maybe they just had a bad case of luck of whatever's going on in their life, The other thing too is like a lot of people that don't want to talk about it and I think Miss Pikachu was talking about earlier, is like she doesn't feel like she has anybody to talk to about it, and it's like because she has tried to before and they kind of push her away. Well, that just means you're not really talking to the right people, and it's unfortunate that there are people like that. But there are people that are willing to listen. I think the biggest thing, like even for me, like for example, I'll be honest, like I've always felt like I've been alone my whole life when it comes to like having that tight knit circle or good friends. And I've had some best friends, but eventually it's kind of just withered out. And even though I've been successful in a lot of things, I've also failed in a lot of things. But through and through, like being a content creator or being in the military has helped me get over that loneliness, because I have developed long-term friendships with the military. I've developed some really great friendships over the time through social media, through my content. And some people are saying in chat like Christian music helps them a lot too. And I mean that's the thing, that's what I'm saying. Like religion is also really good at that, to help you gather your thoughts, calm down, and really think. Because the biggest problem that people have when it comes to things that are going on in their life that are causing stress is usually the biggest things are things that you can't control, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so people just need to take time to step back and reevaluate and reprioritize what can you fix now, what can't you fix.
Yeah, I think I know I had like a difficult time. I remember back, I would have just like kind of moved out of
Gotta
my
have the outlet.
house,
Yep, important to
or
get back to
like
your
my
own center of
mom's
well-being.
back in the
Exactly,
day.
Hollywood.
I
Fishing is your
remember
outlet. Ooh, fishing's fun.
I
Love
had
it.
all my friends, like I had a pretty good circle, and I had people around me, you know, good support and everything like that, and it felt good. And every single one of them went into the military. Every single one of them. So in a matter of like, it felt like a blink of an eye, all of these people that were my friends moved away, and then a good amount of them just moved to different states. So they all left, and it was me and Key. And then I
fell asleep
remember
sitting on the ground.
we
Oh,
were going
nice.
through something at the time, and then so me and her had separate, like, you know, split up for a little bit. And then my grandma died, and I was like, man, this sucks. Like I don't have my friends. I don't have like, it was just like a really hard time. And I was 18 or 19, or I think that's how
why
old I was
call
at
the
the
fish.
time. And so it's like stuff like that, like when you're going through things like that and you feel like you don't have anybody. And I can speak, like, even if you have family and stuff like that, sometimes it's just not what you need, you know? Like someone like my mom's there 24/7. At any moment, she's like the biggest person that supports me. And yet sometimes I just feel like I need something else. Like, you know, you just almost don't want to talk. Like you need somebody else. Or maybe like how they say like peers, like sometimes people more around your age to talk to can be better for you. Like I've just heard that. Not saying that that's necessarily true, but yeah, I think when it comes to, I feel like when it comes to suicide, like that side of things, like I really don't have a lot of experience with that, with people around me, at least like to my knowledge, you know, to my best knowledge, you know. But I think like mental health, like on the mental health side of things, where, you know, you can get to that, obviously they relate in ways, but I would say like really things with suicide I haven't really experienced a lot. But mental health, like heavy, especially for me, like me personally, my last 4 years have been like just ridiculous, personally, like where I'm just like I've been all over the place, like emotionally and in my brain, feeling very, um it's just very, like, I think what started it, and this is, I think, important for people to know if they want to get in the space in this kind of industry, to be a streamer, to be in social media, that it's just like, I was a guy, right, who worked in a warehouse. I just, I didn't really get online at all. I didn't live online. I played video
It took me
games, and
30
that's
years to
about
figure
it.
out, but man, talk it out.
Up until the
Mix it
point
with air,
where
get comfortable, because there's no growth in being comfortable.
I
You're
think it
right, there
was
isn't.
what, 2019,
Look at it from the standpoint of
March
success, right?
2019.
The only way you succeed is by failing. The only way you grow
I went like
is being
that's, I
uncomfortable.
think that's when I started streaming.
Being uncomfortable with being
And
comfortable, right?
when you get, I feel like when you
And
get into that
it's
space,
kind of the same concept.
you really enter in a
Appreciate that
different
comment
world,
there,
especially if
PMD.
you've never been in a part of social media at all. Like I never posted, I never did really virtually anything. At the end of the day though, and I've learned also that in this industry, it's, it, even if there's other parts to play, you, and kind of, you said this before, you can only control what you can control. You can't, like, things that are out of your control, then don't focus. Like, then you have to figure out, okay, well then what can I do, right? What is going to be that move, or how am I going to continue to grow or thrive with this being the case? And at the end of the day, it's kind of up to you to succeed, you know. And a platform can mess you up, or do certain things, but you have full control to make it or do whatever you know.
Yep. You may have a month worth of lows of not very many people coming in, not very many subs coming through, whatever the priority is, and then the next month, the next thing you know, boom, you got that ultimate high. Subs came in, you reached goals you haven't reached for a while or ever, and then and then you got the back to lows. Like, so in the content creating world, there's more ups and downs than I would say in something like a guaranteed job that's being paid. And
Easy,
so
yeah.
I feel like it's a lot easier to fall into the depression state as a content creator, especially those that are full time, um, dealing with the ups and downs of things like that. And I think the biggest part for me, like even though I'm part time, like I think the hardest part for me is coming up with creative ways to engage chat or keep them engaged.
I heavily agree with like the highs and lows. I remember me and player 2 having conversations like once we met each other, it's like we both experienced the same highs and lows around the same times as well. And that I think most of, and I feel like I'm privileged to say this, that I think anything that I've ever struggled with, like mental health, like I feel like 70-80% of it, majority of it has
Talking
been just
snakes.
from
Oh,
like
okay.
being in the space and having those kinds of stresses or anxieties or whatever that have caused like, you know, mental strain or whatever. I just feel like that's where a lot of it has come from, just because like you said, you have ultimate highs and then all of a sudden lows, and then a high, but then the next day a low, like, and it's just such a roller coaster of like, it's, at least at a job you're kind of staying pretty if it's kind of low, at least it's very consistent low. And
Right.
so you know what you can expect, versus like you're on top of the world and then you're on the like you feel like I can't do this, like there's no way, like how am I gonna be able to maintain this?
Right.
What should I do? Let me come up with this idea, and you think you have to do so much, and it's
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that helps me get through some of those low lows is thinking back of some of the achievements or even some of the best moments of my content creator. I mean, I think you probably can speak to the same thing. The time that Stone Mountain rated you, or for me, it was like Stevie T rated me, and then I got Big E rated me on Kick, a couple months ago, and like there's a lot of those good moments. I mean, I mentioned raids, but I mean, there's also a lot of good moments when the viewers come through hardcore with the best support ever, whether it's subs or just chat blowing up. Um, I think that's where you realize you got your core community that shows up when you need it the most. And I also start realizing, like, not every day is going to be like that. Not every day the core community can show up every day like that, because they also got their own lives. Like we talk about, go touch
yeah,
grass,
exactly.
get off social media, go touch grass. I mean, we can't expect our viewers to do that if we're not doing it ourselves, or vice versa. And so that's what helps me kind of get through those low lows. Yeah, I mean, I still focus on the numbers, but it's not because I look at it as a way of I'm doing something wrong. It's like, well, what can I do better? Um,
Yeah, of course.
you know,
But I will say, I want to speak to, because I want to stay on topic of your. I will say this, and this is to get a little bit more on the deeper side of things. I was going through a divorce with Kiana. We have, it's been a very complicated time and a very hard time. And with that has come strain on my son. And my son, I see it in him. Like I can see it. And that's one of the hard things to deal with. Like that has been like the hardest thing to deal with, is to see my son. And then I go to his preschool and they say he's acting out, and like I see it and I'm like, I just don't, like, you feel lost. Like, what can I do?
yeah,
What do I do?
yeah.
Um
And it's crazy. Like even if it's nothing happening in front of them, they just know. It's weird. They know how to read adults somehow, and it's just and I applaud you for bringing that up and sharing that with us. And I'm sorry that you guys are going through that. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
no, you're fine. That's the point. We're here to talk,
Yeah.
right? This
Sorry. I hope you
past
feel
like
better,
3
man.
months for me has definitely been like mental health wise. I've been like a literal roller coaster where like I feel great, and I feel like it's you feel like, okay, this is what's right, like this is what I've told myself, like this is right. And then I turn around, and then all of a sudden I'm like, Like the past 2 weeks, I talked to my boy HD the other day about it, and like I've just been going to sleep at 5, 6 a.m. and I almost just don't sleep at all. Like, and I can't help it. Like, it's something you can't, and like your mind just races and you can't shut it off. And so I think that like the past 3 months for me have been like the hardest mentally that I've had to go through in a hot minute, if not like just really period, like ever. Um, but I've tried to act like I've been good though, like in my family. And I just recently, I just yesterday I sat down with my mom, and I told her like how I actually feel. Like I've told her I'm I'm good and I'm fine. And then I sat with her and like had just a real conversation, because I wanted her to know, because I think it's important for people around you, um, your support system, to use it, and like they're there for you. I know my mom's there for me and will listen and help me if I need it. And I just want her to know, to be aware, because I don't want to say that I've been on the verge of anything, but I don't know what the term would be, but definitely when you feel like everything is going downhill and bad, things cross your mind. It's just reality thing. It happens. And I'm like, okay, that's not a place that I would ever want to be. So I just wanted to tell people, or I wanted her especially to know where I'm at,
Right.
emotionally or
Right.
mentally.
From someone who's gone through a divorce and someone who's had some marital issues in my current marriage, and threatening the divorce part of it, and other things. I definitely understand what you're going through, especially when you've invested so much time and love and care into, and then creating a family from it. And that definitely weighs on you, especially when, I mean, I don't know the details of it, right? So I'm speaking from an in general perspective of either side, because
Yeah.
one person may be more leaning towards divorce, the other person may not be, and like is confused or doesn't know. And so either way, both sides have those emotional barriers, but at the same time, the emotional pitfalls of not knowing the unknown, and it's out of your control. And the only thing you can do is be the best person you can, and change for the best, for the better. And I don't mean change who you are, but change certain things that, one or the other is having a problem with.
Right.
And obviously, because I'm not a big fan of changing who you are for somebody. That's not really what it comes down to, but changing what you do is different.
But I just resonated with that specific part for sure.
Are you guys still going through it, or you guys are kind of on level terms and kind of working things through, or kind of level terms still going through it?
Well,
I'm sorry if I'm
so
being personal.
no. You're actually perfectly fine. I think it's really weird that I came into your stream and then you asked me about like if I wanted to do it, and I'm like, I thought I not that it's funny, but I laugh to myself because I'm like, this is kind of funny because I feel like I'm dealing with it more than I've ever have before.
Yeah.
Like just again, like just mentally, my mental health, and I'm like, okay, he wants me to jump on, and I just thought the timing was kind of comedic to me, just
Yeah,
in
no,
a dark way.
it's crazy how things happen, and
Yeah.
and that's what I was kind of talking about. I mean, I'm not saying I'm your silent angel, but I'm saying like it's kind of crazy how when things happen like that. And that's the thing, is that that's what tends to happen when people don't even realize that they're doing something good for somebody without realizing it, and then it actually in fact helps somebody be able to be a better person for it, or
Right.
better in their lives. Just know, man, you can always call me and talk to me as well. I'm always open about anything. But I appreciate that. I hope everything works out, honestly. And you know what, Zach will be all right.
Yeah.
No matter what the choices are, the best thing for you guys to do is, one, obviously not argue in front of him, but also let him know that you guys love him. I think that's the biggest thing, and stay involved. That's the biggest thing that you guys can do for him.
It's definitely true. Something that I think people should recognize, or at least my own personal experiences, when you are going through something that I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but when you're mentally going through it, like I noticed that I started to, like during this past 3 months, I slowly stopped taking care of my home. I stopped cleaning. I stopped making my bed. I stopped doing my laundry. I stopped a lot of things. And I've always said this, like your home can be a reflection of your mental state. So when you just stop taking care of things, like it's just a reflection of you, like how you're feeling.
Right.
And I stopped doing these things, and with that I stopped caring about things, like certain things. Like I be very, very open, and something that I do not like to talk about is that I feel like I have not cared and put the effort in towards my son like I always feel like I want to. And that's a hard thing to accept or to say. But it's like just going through this, I just feel like kind of sunk, and I just stopped caring about things. Never neglect of like, you know, not taking care of him, but like putting in the effort to sit and play with him and to do things. I just could feel it within myself, like just mentally just not being there, like just present. And that is something I'm not okay with. I've very, like when I tell you very recently, a lot of things have changed for me in the past 24 hours or 48 hours, couple days.
Right.
A lot has happened for me. I hit like a mental breaking point, like where too many days without sleep, and then I finally like hit a point where I'm like literally out loud. I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, but where you're like, you almost like you can't talk. You know how you usually talk to yourself in your brain? You just kind of you can talk to
Right.
yourself,
Yeah.
whatever. I couldn't do that, so I had to go to the point of I was just talking out loud, walking around my house for like 2 hours probably, trying to sort things out, like trying to figure things out that had been like bothering me. And that had to do with my marriage with Kiana, ways I was being like as a person. I'd realized a lot of things about myself, and kind of what you said, you should never change who you are. If you're goofy, do not feel like you need to be serious for somebody. Don't change who you are, because then they're not right for you if that's the case. However, there's things that I never realized that I did, things that I realized, and it stems back to streaming. Like the moment I started streaming, it kind of changed my identity. A lot of my habits and things that I did changed completely, and I just didn't realize a lot of things about myself over the years that has caused a lot of problems. And it just was like a very big moment for me to realize I'm doing things wrong, and I didn't see it that way, but yet I realized it. Yeah, since then, yeah, a lot has changed for me in the past couple days.
No, but you know what? You're growing though. That's the thing. That's the important thing, man. You're growing. Now, whatever the outcome comes through, right? Just know that what happened in the last 24, 48 hours is showing you're growing. That means more to people than you realize. Having that breaking point is probably your body's way of saying like, listen, get the fuck up, get shit done, and figure it out. You know what I'm saying? But you know, yeah, no, that I mean, I think a lot of us that have gone through. I mean, obviously, I wasn't at home when I went through my, was going through my divorce issues, and the first time, a couple people in chat were talking like they resonate with what you're saying, and how you just stop caring about your house, and it's kind of a reflection of who you are. And it's just like the thing about it is depression kicking in, especially when it's about something that you really care about. Obviously, you and Key are a cute couple. You guys have a cute son. You guys definitely work well together on the streams from what we've seen, and she's been a pivotal part of your stream as well. And so it's hard for everyone to kind of like I think it's hard for your community to hear that as well, of what you're going through. Obviously, the other thing is your body's just telling you like at that moment you're like, I'm just done. Like I just don't want to do shit right now. Just want to chill. Just want to and like take a break, and kind of like I think your body's also kind of saying, let's think about this and not do shit and just have that moment, And then eventually it was basically like, okay, I'm ready to get up now. Let's get something done. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's clean up our shit, and that's kind of like a generic statement of saying not necessarily just internally, but also your house. Like your body's like kind of saying, wait, hey, let's get back,
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing I forgot to mention that someone had brought up earlier is also to make sure you let Zach know that it's not his fault. Definitely not his fault. Because if you don't say that enough, or if you don't say that at all, like a lot of times kids tend to. I mean, I'm a child product of divorce. Somebody else in chat was saying that George said he was a child of divorce. It's one of those things like if you don't hear it from your parents, then you start thinking, well, what did I do? And you really don't want Zach to feel that way either. But like biggest thing is be there for him. Tell him you love him. Tell him that mom loves him, and then also say, hey, it's not your fault. Me and mom are just working through something, and no matter what the outcome is, you'll always love him, be there for him.
That's very true.
And trust me, man, I got my 2 kids, and like and unfortunately we're at a place where we don't have anywhere to go. Like we don't got family out here to kind of like take the night off, go somewhere. Luckily, I got a basement that I can kind of sleep in. But my kids have heard some of the arguments, and the walls are thin no matter where you go. The best thing to do is just let them know like, hey, we're just mad, we're upset. This is you don't really have to tell them what's going on, but just let them know that like, hey, we still love each other. We care about you, and it's no one's fault but our own. But whatever.
No, that's very, very, very true. I appreciate that as well.
No, thanks, man. That's awesome to know that you can trust us with this. Again, we're sorry that you guys are going through this, and I hope things work out for the best, whatever that may be. At the same time, I'm kind of selfish. I kind of like you guys,
Well,
as a couple.
I can go ahead and say like when a big part of what I say a lot has changed for me in the past couple of days, that I will say that's for a very good reason, a way that makes me very happy. I feel good about it. We're working it out.
Hey, I like to hear that.
In a very good very good way.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, that's good, homie. Sometimes you just need that kick in the ass to get things going, and I'm glad that you guys are working on things now. One thing I will say though is when you say you're sorry, you mean it. You know.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing I can say for from this marriage is there's been times where I'm just like, yeah, okay, sorry, you know, my bad, you know, whatever. But you know, when I realized something was going on, that's when I was like, you know, that's when I break down. I'm like, listen, you know, I messed up. I'm sorry. They know when we mean it. What I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, absolutely. An empty sorry is you know, like no, that's very, very, very true. And I'm happy about it I'm happy that I had to go through this experience, even though it's been horrible. It's also allowed me to see things within myself and realize things. And big era of Andrew Tate was a whole thing when you say be a man, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I always think that in my head every time I say it, just because it was like all over the internet. I believe in I have to be a man. Like I have responsibilities. I need to get over certain things and be strong to not do these weak things that I do and just like take care of responsibilities, let my work be my work, and put in effort where I wouldn't put it, like just a lot of different things.
Preston, you definitely has said something that's really, really awesome. Sometimes you got to go through it to grow through it. That's exactly it.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, Player 2 Gaming, thank you so much, my guy. I appreciate you, homie. The other thing I was gonna say is, and I think this is another reason why I'm starting the DomCast when it comes to mental health awareness and suicide awareness is mainly as men we've lived in. I mean, you're Gen Z, so I don't know if you really grew up in the 90s or anything, but
1998, I was born.
Okay, yeah, okay, you're there.
And I am Gen Z. I thought my whole life I thought I was a millennial, you know, with my millennial people, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think you're on that like cusp of like you know,
I'm Gen Z.
No, I know. I'm saying like, you're at that time where like it just became a thing. But you're like that old Gen Z, if that makes sense, like putting you on that borderline between the two.
I'm the ancient Gen Z.
Yeah.
I'm their elder.
Exactly. So us growing up, like we always heard, you know, rub some dirt on it. Don't, you know, be a man, put your tears away, and you know. And I think nowadays, I think we're really. I've seen a lot of like TikTok females. They're starting to come out and saying, listen, like your husband, your significant other, your man, like has feelings too, even though they won't say anything on it. Understand that they're going through it too. Allow them and let them know that you're open to listening to what they're going through. Because us as men, we go through things. We'll just okay, honey, all right, and then just go and do it. And we're sitting there in our heads like this motherfucker, you know, God damn it, you know, but we're not outwardly speaking it because it's just how we grew up. And then whenever we get hurt or whenever a girl breaks our heart, we're just on to the next one. We're holding up all these emotions, and then whenever there's an argument and the woman's like mad about something, it's like then we're just like, all right, you know, we're sorry, honey, we'll fix it, you know, whatever. Versus, you know, really open about why something happened or maybe, you know, trying to correct something. Or so the biggest thing is men need to stop being closed off. Allow yourself to be open with your emotions. Obviously, speak through it very calmly, but also let you know, be very open about it. Because I mean, that's going to help save a lot of lives and a lot of men. I think the suicide rate for men is higher than it is for women. That doesn't necessarily negate women have feelings as well. Ultimately, we want to change the culture and letting, like, now don't get me wrong, I don't mean we have to be feminine and all that other stuff, but it's like let's change the culture and let men express why they're upset or express why they're mad about something. Don't just shrug it off because they're a man. I think that's going to also help save lives from suicide, allowing people to be open about what they're upset about.
Yeah, that's 100%. I agree with that a lot. Like, I think that is a lot of what was taught for people, like, oh, you're a man, suck it up. And then a lot of people hold true to that. They don't want to not, you know, be seen as weak or to me, it makes you, the feeling should be that you should feel weak, that you can't open up. Like that is weakness. It's very hard to open up to somebody and, you know, be honest with your feelings and things of that nature. It's definitely, I think it's very crucial. And I can, there's a lot of people who've been around me.
Absolutely, man. I mean, if you think about it, and it's funny I'm bringing this up because my wife had asked me if I ever thought about the Roman times or some shit. Like there's some TikTok trend that was going on.
Oh yeah,
and like, well, we were just watching the TV show Rome anyways, but if you think about it, I think it dates back to even before the Roman times of how men were, and it's war, strength, shoot, kill, stab, you know, whatever. And like the way they treated women was differently as well. And so like if we're able to change the culture of how things were back in that time, of how women were treated up till now, how women can vote, women have equal rights, women have all this stuff, there's no reason why we can't change the culture to allow men to speak their minds. Obviously, I mean, even just starting off by letting them just full on lash out and just speak their minds and not take take it offended by anything they said. Just listen to them. I think that's going to help a lot too. Is like, so I think the culture's slowly changing, especially in the military. But it's doing our part to kind of pass the message along, let them know like, hey, we have feelings too. Now I'm not going to go out and riot and do a parade about men's feelings and this, whatever. I want to try. This is what part of the show is about. Is kind of bringing this to light, letting people know that this can also help suicide, especially with the men, but also allowing women to speak their mind as well. The more we speak about it, the easier it's going to be, and I think that's going to help save lives in the long run versus me just sitting down and going through like, I don't know if you can see this, but like PowerPoint slides,
right?
And like just discussing, and like, oh, okay, stigma is defined as a certain behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be, it's boring as shit when you just do that. It doesn't get the message across. I don't feel so. By us doing this, I think it helps people get more involved and it kind of opens up, and it kind of, I think it brings also that community togetherness when we can be open and vulnerable for them. Because like I said earlier, we normally are trying to have positive vibes. We're normally dying to random shit in Warzone or Rust or whatever may be the case, and we're having good times, and and we don't like when trolls come in and just start calling us dicks and like yesterday someone was in Testy streaming, like all he said was you're a bitch. It's like, we don't like that kind of stuff, right? So for us to have a stream like this maybe once a week, or even I don't know if you want to implement this into your content once a week for an hour or whatever, but I've found that it helped a lot. It helps bring the community together and helps people see us more for who we are versus just seeing us as that content creator.
I don't think I've never really done to say specifically, mental health awareness or suicide awareness or anything specific, but one of my favorite times has just been to not jump into the game. Like I don't like doing that. I like a lot of people I've noticed in my experience, my normal thing, that's when the numbers rise and that feels great. It's like, oh, people are here for this. But then there's real people who want to be a part of the community and maybe open up. At the beginning of the stream, I try to talk just for like, sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour and a half, but it's just like having real conversation. And every day doing that, a lot of times we've had serious conversation, where people start talking about real things. And then conversation starts about, it's relatable for other people and things about that. And I see it as a way to get closer with the community. And sometimes like even people saying that they're going through some stuff that they've been struggling or whatever, like that's happened a lot of time. Beginning of the stream, people being open. And I think it's because in a way, a part of a support system for a lot of people, something that they look forward to every day and they come in. And that's what I love, is because I don't see it as, oh, I'm that for them. I also see it as they're that for me, which is selfish, maybe doing what I do, but like I genuinely can't wait. Like I love sitting down and streaming and having those conversations and doing it. And so to me, it's a two-way or whatever, it goes both ways. And I feel beneficial to it as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, dude. Like I was saying earlier, like when I look at content creating, I'm looking at you, like you were talking about earlier about there's some times where you're down and out, and you don't and using going live as an outlet. I mean, that's the same thing with people that are viewers. They utilize streams as an outlet as well, and that's the best part about it. Now, and you're right. There's a lot of people that just, because we're also like a year ago, 2 years ago, I think there's a big debate about starting scenes, and then like people are like, oh, you should just go live right when you're starting a game up and this and that, blah blah blah. And then now it's becoming more and more of a trend to be more just chat right in the beginning, and then jump into games later on. And you're right, it leaves room for your viewers, your community to kind of talk about what's going on with them. And they may not be very open about it, or they may be very open about it, and it's not a bad thing. Because remember, there's also that time where a lot of bigger streamers were like, don't trauma dump in my chat and blah 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 blah. I'm like I get why they would say that, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's the reason why they're part of your community, because they feel comfortable enough to trauma dump. Maybe they're expecting somebody in chat, and it may not necessarily you, but somebody in chat to reach out to them because they need that person. And so I never really agreed, and it's not that I unfollowed anybody, but I definitely didn't go in their streams as often because of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's time, like I've always been, I have like, when it comes to stream, right, like just streaming or content, things that I've seen within people. I actually watched a streamer not that long ago, and if he gets a raid, actually this is Voodoo Mama Juju, Rachel.
Yeah.
She we were in a Discord call, and she was showing me that there's a streamer. They were saying this guy, like she was trying to figure out, does this guy like do what he does because he views it as a show, like he's doing it because he wants to keep it consistent for a stream. People who get upset when they trauma dump in their chat or whatever, I think those are the same people who they just view it, they view their live stream or their content as a show, right? So their only purpose is to entertain, versus like actually create a community or grow a community. Like they just want to entertain, and they just want it to be a show, versus, because everyone's streams are different in that way, because some people are not really community oriented. they just do their thing and they don't
Right.
really connect very much. I think that's generally with some bigger streamers are kind of like that.
I
They're
think
not like super intimate, or I
Yeah,
don't know if that's the word,
I
but
think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, you know, their chat's just blowing. I mean, there are some bigger streamers that don't have chat that's blowing up either. But I think like, you know, Stone Mountain, for example, you know, he's got thousands of people in his stream, and he's probably got, you know, half of those that are sitting there chatting in his chat, and like, so it's really, I think it's really hard for somebody like him to be able to really connect with with their community because of that. Because like I always question, like, how do you choose which freaking comments to like engage with, like, you know? And I think he would probably do better too as well if he added something like that, like a just chat and stream in there, where he's just really getting to know his community that has been supporting him for years on end. And then there's just some streamers that are bigger, you know, that don't really have a lot of chat moving, that you're right, they're just more into the showmanship entertainment versus, you know, really getting to know the community. And, you know, to each their own. And there's some people that just love that, and there's some people that really yearn for that community growth versus entertainment.
definitely agree.
Yeah, but yeah, there's it's just like, so I mean, I don't know, you see my stream, so I that's why I added the bottom part, the three statements is be brave, be loved, and be strong, because ultimately depression kicks everyone right in the face. Literally, everyone that deals with depression deals with it differently, but I can tell you a lot of them feel like they're alone. And so they start shutting people out. And that's why I say be brave and be loved, be strong, because if you can be all three of those, you're more likely going to find your silent angel, or you're going to be strong enough, be brave enough to find a loved one or somebody to talk to and open up, and they might be the person that can really listen to what you're going through. And maybe you guys might find some common ground to find out how to fix whatever's going on. But that one person that you need to talk to is there. You just have to find that person. Unfortunately, that's the only part that's on you, with the small chance that the silent angel might find you randomly throughout the world. A lot of my stuff would happen in Iraq. I think you had mentioned this earlier, that you haven't dealt with anything this closely when it comes to suicide. I was going to say, well, you never know. Someone hasn't reached out to you to say, hey, you saved my life. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if you're still, no, you said 98?
Yeah, 98.
98. So you're 11 years old. Do you remember the Arizona Cardinals Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl? Probably not, because you're not really into football either. But early 2009, it was a Super Bowl with the Cardinals in Pittsburgh, and in Iraq, they actually had a bunch of beer out there for it. Like, we couldn't drink alcohol at all. It was always near beer, like old duels, basically like 2% alcohol, whatever. Like, so can't like get you drunk at all, and unless you drink like 1,000 of them. And so they finally put in, they gave us some beer. They allowed us to have a two drink maximum at the dining facility over in Baghdad, where I was at. I saw my buddy, and we've been friends the whole time, and, you know, whatever. I just happened to see him, like, kind of like I was talking. Just, I mean, he's also been the kind of guy that's kind of like doesn't really walk straight up, and he's not like cheerful. He's kind of like an RBF almost, but like more of a depressed looking face versus. But he's never really. But he's funny as shit, and like, you know, he's got his moods. And I happened to see him walking by, but like more down and out than usual. And I was just like, yo, what's up, man? What's going on? He's like, I'm just done. I'm just ready to go. And I was like, well, you're not gonna go to the DFAC? He's like, no, man. There's a lot of lines. I think instinctively I heard him say, I'm done with it. I'm just ready to go. Was a cry for help that I didn't really catch on right away. But instinctively, I also asked him, well, if you don't want to, because they're going to watch the game over there too. And I was like, well, I can get the game on in my room if you want to just come chill out, get something to eat real quick, and we'll go hang out in the room and we'll just watch the game, you know, whatever. And he was like, he kind of hesitated, and he's like, sure, we can do that. And then we had a good time, you know, we watched the game, whatever. Well, after we came back to the States, we had to stop at Fort Lewis, Seattle, Washington to do all of our out processing type stuff, whatever, when we came back to the States. And well, about a year later, I found out he called me up and he was like, yo, how's it going, man? You still in the army? I was like, yeah. What are you up to, man? You back home? Because he was from Hawaii. He's like, no, I'm actually still over here in Seattle, Washington at Fort Lewis, dealing with some childhood drama or trauma and seeing therapists and stuff like that. He's like, I just wanted to call to let you know, like, thank you. And I was like, for what? He's like, for being my friend, and especially the night that we watched the Super Bowl together, because that was the night I was going to go take my M16 and shoot myself. And I was like,
wow.
Yo, I was like, fuck, man, like that was like some deep shit that I wasn't expecting. And,
Right, yeah.
And I was just like, I mean, obviously it warms my heart to know that he was able to call me, you know, a year later to tell me that. And even to this day, I have him on Facebook, and every so often we'll reach out to each other. And, you know, he's living life in Hawaii now. He's doing great things for himself, and he was able to get past all that stuff. And it's just the fact that, like, for him to remember a year later to call me and say, like, this is, you know, thank you for helping me. You know, that's deep, and you know, and like it warms my heart to know that, like. And that's where the message I come from. Like, if someone pops in your head, no matter what you're doing, like, drop what you're doing and just call them. Like, don't text them, just call them. Find them on Facebook, call them. Do something. Like, do something, because I guarantee you there's a reason why they pop in your head. It may not be because of suicide. It just may be that they're just needed to hear somebody, and they just, you know, maybe they're down and out for something, or, you know, they might be going through something. someone's always going through something, and if you hear or you're thinking about somebody, call them. That's the best advice I can give anyone in regards to reaching out to somebody. You know, like there's a reason why you're thinking about somebody. Just call them. But that's my part of, like, you know, the being a silent angel, and it, you know, it warms my heart, like I said, to know that he's, you know, I think it was it was over 14 years ago.
Wow.
You know, yeah. So even to this day, I've had some friends that have been through it all and have come back from it. And I've also had a buddy that, you know, the year after I left, he committed suicide because the medication. I don't ever push medication on anybody. I don't ever say, oh, well, you need to go get medicated. I don't believe in it. I don't trust it, because there's a lot of symptoms that counteract what you're trying to use it for. And prime example is my buddy. He had fibromyalgia. They gave him pain medication that also caused severe anxiety and depression. Then he also had antidepressant medication that kind of didn't work well with that pain medication. The moment I left, because I ended up moving back to Arizona, I guess in a way I was kind of his watch, or like his guardian angel, I guess, in a way, because I was always telling him, like, yo, call me if you need anything. Don't let it get to you. Like, if you're down and out, give me a call. And he called me every freaking time. The moment I moved away, about 6 months later, he committed suicide.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying that, like, and that's the thing, the other side of things too is survivor's guilt, right? So I went through a lot of that with him, with my grandma recently, and it's not my fault that he committed suicide 6 months after, because obviously I couldn't be the only one that stopped him from doing any of that stuff. But you know, but that's the thing, that's when you have a loved one who commits suicide, they don't think it like matters to anybody, when in reality it matters to everybody. Yeah. And I say that generically, everybody, because everybody that you know, everyone that's been involved with you, everyone that you've blessed with your presence is affected. I don't mean everybody like your immediate family members. I mean everybody. And so if you think about it that way, you've got branches upon branches upon branches of that tree, that you're the base of it. Those branches are grown by everyone that you've met and you've associated with. It's hard, man. It's hard. Yeah. Words are so powerful and can build someone up or tear them down. It is a big responsibility to use your words positively.
I think
yeah.
I've definitely, I never directly have experienced that or dealt with it, but I do remember nothing recent. But I remember when I first started on Facebook, it was after like the Stone Ray kind of era. I do remember like I definitely don't want to name drop. Just a very important person to me in my life told me something that I never would have thought, you know, that they felt that I had saved them. And that was like, but it doesn't register like to me the same way. I feel like it's harder to, I don't know, accept that kind of thing, that you are that person. Like the fact that someone would let you know that, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like it was hard for me to understand it to its fullest capacity without really, really knowing said person as much as I do now. But at the time, you don't realize what people, like you kind of said, like, I don't know, you just don't know what anyone's going through. And that's why I definitely agree, if you, especially like you said, you kind of notice, you walked by this guy and
we're proud of you as well, man.
Your small act of kindness, just to say what's up, like, hey, come to my, you know, let's go, like, why don't we do this? Like, just like something so small, like you just have no idea what's going on in somebody's head. And I think that speaks a lot. Yeah, I don't know, that's just, it's a very important thing to know and keep in your mind, because I agree, like, this kind of thing is very serious. Like, people deal with very serious things, and life can just kind of go by you if you're living your own life and you're fine. But when you consider other people like that, you can severely change the course of somebody's life just by being a friend and being nice and kind. I definitely don't like to say, oh, I regret things, because it helped, you know, but I regret, I used to stream 7 days a week and I did it decent hours, and, you know, focus, like trying to edit and do everything, and just spent like, that was my whole day. And I remember like Kiana's brother Jay would have had a birthday and I didn't go, and then someone else had a birthday in my family, I didn't go. Like, you know, love you guys, I gotta grind. And then I lost time, and I can't get any of that time back now. I've lost my opportunity. I think, yeah, balance is really hard. Like, having I don't think there's anything such as complete perfect balance, but like coming up with a balance where, especially when you have a family, these people who do streaming and content and they're single and they're just doing their own thing and they don't have a family or kids, dude, you're fine. Like, what do you have to worry about?
Yeah, more power to them. Yeah,
you can do that, whatever. But even then, you should still balance your life and go outside or do whatever, you know, you still should have that. But yeah, I think when you have a family and obligations and just like relationships, there's a lot to it, right? And when you want to put everything into something, it's just really hard to do that and have everyone be happy. You gotta have balance,
because no matter whether you have a significant other that supports what you're doing, it's eventually going to wane down, especially when it becomes more of a priority over the family. Now, granted, they understand that, like, you're you know, it's a business, and that, you know, there's some money that comes from it. Some, like you said, even some of the full-time streamers that have families that make some good money on it, you know, obviously they have to, because it's their job, right? You're right. Yeah, it becomes it becomes waning when that happens, and it's unfortunate that that's the life of a content creator, especially those that are part-time or those that are full-time with family. I think that's part of the learning process when you become, or when you first start it, and I think it's a learning process for everyone involved when it comes to the family side of things. And I think communication is a huge part of it. And if you're not communicating with your significant other, and you're just kind of just going live, and you're not letting them know, like, you don't have a built schedule or consistency or whatever, and then so there's times where my wife would be like, yo, I need help with your kid. I'm like, you mean our kid? So because my youngest one's autistic, so like sometimes I can hear him even upstairs, like throwing a fit, or he's pounding on the ground, or whatever, to walking heavily, and I'm like, oh crap, something's going on. So I'll take 5-10 minutes away from the stream real quick, and I'll go help out with whatever I need to help out with up there. And I think my wife appreciates that more so than me just ignoring it and just continuing with the vibes on the stream, and
oh yeah,
yeah,
I've been guilty of that, like too focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I agree, like, not like a normal, if you think of a normal, a part-time job or a full-time job or whatever you want to view it as, people who sit down for hours, or people take breaks, people take time away from what they're doing. I worked at a warehouse and I had multiple breaks. It's like you have to give yourself, you can't just, I think the feeling of there's people here, oh, they're gonna if I just go, they're gonna leave,
right,
that's like the pressure that you'll feel. And I feel like it's like,
Rickers, I have Apex, I think
my
I'm probably
son,
playing
there was a time when my son, he trying to body train, and he decided that he wanted to squat on the floor, and he just started going everywhere, and then he grabbed it and started touching things, and
so
Keanu was
reenacting the episode of Dumb and Dumber.
Oh my gosh.
There's shit everywhere. Oh my god.
But it's literally, quite literally what it was. And I remember that moment, I like got up and I was like gonna help. And I remember, because so many times I had told her that it's important, it's important that during that time, that's what I would say, even though now I feel differently. But at that time I felt that way. Even during a very stressed time for her, she even said, no, it's important. And she would, and I respect, like, she has great qualities like that. Like, just that she will, I think that's, that says a lot about somebody, like the fact that she would do that. But yet that's wrong. Like, to me, it's like, that's kind of wrong. Like, I should have been there to help. Take 5 minutes to help, even if that's just holding him in place to stop the chaos. It's like things like that.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was the same way too. Like, even like when the kids would come in the middle of like whatever I'm doing, I'm like, yo, you can't come in, and it's funny because like the reason why I started watching you even more so than the first time I came into your stream was the fact that you had this whole family dynamic. Your wife's sitting there with you, and part of the content, your kid would come in, and y'all be so happy, and it's cool. And then like your dog would come in, and you would play with him a little bit, and it just seemed like you wrapped your content a little bit more so around the family to keep them involved, which then was admirable as well, because you don't see that a lot with the content creators. Usually it's just them. There's nobody else coming in, and once in a while you'll see a hand come across to give them food and then back out, and they'll say thank you, whatever, and we're like, well, who's that? Whatever. But you guys were really brought your family, and that's what I liked about it a lot more, because I mean, it was you, Stone Mountain, and you that I watched the most in the beginning, and then when you guys had that stream spawn with Player 2, that's when I started watching Player 2, and you guys both had that same family dynamic that was actually really cool. And so that's really what got me going, and like I wanted to bring that in, but at the same time, again, what you're saying, in your head you're like, well, if I step away, people are going to leave, I'm not going to be entertaining, and and this and that, and so when my kids came through, or whenever my family would come in, it's like I was like, hold on, like now it's a distraction, because maybe I was in the middle of a conversation with you, or I'm reading chat, I'm talking to them, and next thing they come in and distract me, and all of a sudden I don't want the viewers to be like, he doesn't really have his 100% attention on us and this and that. But then I also didn't realize that viewers also understand, they know that I have a family, so it's gonna happen, and so later on I eventually started realizing that, and then I started having my son come on stream. We played some Nintendo games, and now once in a while, the only thing I do, I tell my youngest one to get out and go put clothes on. That's the only thing I tell him to do.
That's fair. Hey, that's a very, very fair thing to say.
I mean, he has clothes on, he has his underwear on, but I'm like, no, you have to have shirts and shorts, and he because if you really want, you'll hear him throw a fit too. He'll throw a huge fit. He's debating, he's kind of thinking it's a debate. I'm like, no, you need to get out, and then you'll hear him go, he just screams or whatever, and then next 5 minutes later he comes down with shorts and shirt on.
and then ready,
so that's the only thing I like. Now it's like, I try to get my wife more involved, and she's like, I'm not getting on camera, but thankfully this year, or this month, if we reach the sub goal, we're doing a yoga stream.
A yoga stream?
A yoga stream.
Hey, yo.
I'm gonna get them yoga pants and everything.
What's crazy, like when you said that that's what you like in terms of the
family dynamic.
Family dynamic. Again, just very recently, I like realized certain things, like because you saw that, but as having this brain when I entered in this world, right, of being online or whatever, like when my son got older, that's when it started really happening because he was really loud. Like he wants to scream or play or whatever, and I'm like, oh, people are gonna hate hearing that, like just hearing screaming or yelling and whatever. And a lot of me regrets having this mindset that I can't have my family included. Like I didn't like shun or say don't ever come in here, but I would say like, oh, because of my son being loud, I would say, oh, I don't want to annoy people. And I regret feeling that way to a degree, because like if it's like for a long time just screaming and yell, and he's doing his thing, I'm sure then that might be like, okay, people are watching and all they hear is screaming. That's a little too much. I would like want to avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
And I hate that like now I realize like kind of some ways I was about that. And I remember how I felt. I took myself back when I first did that, when I was first streaming. I'm like, man, I was so happy. I was genuinely like so happy.
With age comes wisdom.
with having them there, like having Kiana next to me, my son should be holding him, and it was just so precious moments. And also just like, I think like you say, I've watched some people like that. Not very many people do. Some of it's just like YouTube, seeing like people who actually include family, and it's like a very sweet thing. Like I love to see that, and so I can understand why a lot of people would love to see that. I don't know why my brain not went in a different direction, but had this thought process that was just weird.
You're bringing yourself back to your roots. That's what it comes down to, and that's a lot of things that creators tend to forget. Now, don't get me wrong, we grow, we evolve, right? But then we start straying away from what we originally became, who we were in the beginning, to now, what may have brought people in more so than they do now. And then obviously it's hard to tell what it is, especially when we're switching platforms, because certain things that are going on with those platforms. But it's great on you to realize that family was a huge part of your success in the beginning of your times, and when you became Facebook partner, and then you slowly went away from it, rightfully so, for different things, and you wanted to try something new, different strategies, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, sometimes it works better. It all depends on what you want to do. And I've learned that from my experience. There's I've got to get back to my and George had said that earlier, Elgato Gordo, he said that earlier about subs and stuff like that. They're like, or giving back to the community. It's like, you don't really, a lot of people don't really give a shit about giveaways and money and this and that. They care more about viewer games, sub games, and stuff like that, and like wanting to be more involved.
Yeah, just being a part.
Yep. And that makes sense, because I know I've gone away from doing viewer games or follower games, sub games, and a lot of it is just because I wouldn't get a good turnout, and I do it multiple times, and I think I felt like I may have overplayed it a lot, because there was a time where I was doing it almost every day to bring new people in, to play with new people, get to talk to them, versus just reading something from on the screen. And so that's my reason why I haven't done it. But if people want to do it, I'm more than welcome to do it. Like after this, I'll probably jump on some Warzone, since I haven't played it in a month, and play with community games if they want to. I just to me, I didn't realize that people were still into that, because it didn't seem like it's a thing anymore. Granted, there are some people that do sub games and stuff like that, so that's awesome to see. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, I think it's just the fact that there was some genuine content you guys made that was natural because of whatever event you're doing, whether you're eating the gummy bear, or you're eating the chicken wings with your mods, or
oh yeah, I love that,
or shaving your head off. And a lot of it is the rewards that people get to see you be tortured from your community showing up and showing out, as well as getting your wife involved. And I think people love to see people more of the family dynamic being more involved than just that hand that comes by and gives you food. I mean, that's from my perspective, because my wife comes in and all they see is her hand giving me food.
Yeah.
So I would love to get my wife more involved, but she's camera shy, so that's the thing. She's like, but then again, she might be late to it too, because it takes her 4 hours to get ready. That's minimum. I'm just kidding. But
well, hopefully you hit your sub goals. So hey, if you're watching, and you get your wallet out, your credit card, give Dominator some money. You know what I mean? You got to get that yoga stream.
Yeah.
Let me find mine. I might have my.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, getting slapped with the tortilla. That thing was funny too. Or world's hottest chip. You talking about the one chip challenge? Dude, I did both of those too. I did the gummy bear after you did, because you freaking inspired me.
Gummy bear was horrible.
The gummy bear,
I hated that.
I would say the gummy bear was worse than the lollipop, the toe of Satan.
Oh really?
Oh yeah. By far.
The gummy bear is the hottest thing I've done. I did the chip as well. The chip is pretty rough, but I just remember the pain that I felt with the gummy bear, and it's really intense.
Yeah.
And And then the next day when it's, you know, going out the other end, it was a lot of pain as well, at least for me.
I
And
mean, I was fine with
oh,
that part. It's just like, and I managed to handle the gummy bear pretty well for the most part. It was spicy up front, but I was surprised at how fast it went away for me, at least. And then
really?
I think because the gummy bear and the sucker are both the same Scoville unit, 9 million, and so I would have thought that because you're sucking on the sucker and it's kind of like it's constantly coming through, and you know obviously it takes forever for the sucker to kind of like melt down if you can handle it that long, that it would have been worse. But the challenge didn't say you have to swallow everything; it just says you have to hold it in your mouth. So the challenge isn't as I guess I could have added my challenge to not letting it, like not spitting out everything. So maybe that I might do that next time to see how much worse it could be, since it's constantly, because like the gummy bear you chew it up, even though was yours hard. Mine tasted stale as hell.
The gummy bear?
Yeah.
No, it was like fresh.
Was it?
Felt,
mine was stale. It was all hell. Like I had to like really chew it down.
really? No, but it legitimately, if you need some more, Joshua Johnson,
he didn't buy you like 3 of them.
he bought me 8. I have 8.
Holy shit.
He literally spent like $120 just as a joke.
Yeah.
Just because I said I wouldn't do any more, he said, "Oh, I'm sure you won't," and then sent me 8 of like
That's
8
so
packs.
funny, dude. Imagine we do some kind of like weird challenge where like one loses, they have to eat one, and then they eat falls.
I can't. I don't think I swore that I wouldn't do hot stuff again, bro.
Okay.
Like,
well, would you rather do that or crawling on Legos?
Crawling on Legos was fine. It wasn't. It hurt because I did one with my knees. Like I did variety. Like it had to be variety.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of different ways of doing it. Hopping on one foot over Legos. That was one.
Oh my goodness. I'd be afraid of like rolling my ankle doing that.
Well, it's the moment you get that corner, the one Lego that's facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
So on the knees, every single one is just yeah, horrible.
I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to this.
To speak to this, I just feel like, you know, on the topic, it's just been an interesting handful of months for me, and I feel like I've had a lot of ambition to want to do some cool stuff, and I feel refreshed and ready to ready to come up with hopefully some cool ideas and fun things to do that aren't just the day-to-day things. But nothing
Planned. Okay. Any goals at all?
Any goals?
Yeah.
Like what? Like when you say goals, what do you mean? Like
goals, anything this month? Is there anything you want to improve on, anything you want to reach, anything you want to do? Whether it's streaming, touching grass, whatever may be the case. If there's any goals that we can hold you accountable, not that we're gonna do that, but we would like to see you reach some goals. You know what I mean?
True. I think at least by the end of the month. I don't know. I keep wanting to strive on TikTok to keep grow. Like I've been hitting good marks. I want to hit like 25K before the end of the month at least. But I've had an interesting opportunity that is actually starting. It's already started.
Nice.
Where I might be able to become. This is what she described it to me. It's pretty much becoming a partnered TikTok streamer, which is very interesting, and opportunity with that could be pretty cool. But with that, they also then tell you, yeah, that Twitch little logo, that little kick logo, you gotta take all that off, which I absolutely, it almost made me not want, like I almost like I'm upset about it, because my growth on Twitch or whatever social, like when I put that little thing there, a ton of people come over and then follow. Like so many people that are a part of my community now came from TikTok, because but now they watch on X platform versus staying on TikTok.
Oh, they watch you on X? You go live on X too? That's awesome. I'm just kidding.
X well, yeah, I guess that, yeah, that's actually what I said.
No, that's pretty dope. I was just saying, because I think it was Steffi Evans or somebody, I can't remember who it was, posted on Twitter, like, she's like, hey, let me challenge you on something. Let's try taking off all those other platforms off of your TikTok lives and see what your results are. She's like, I guarantee you'll see an increase because of the terms of services. So you're not really being shunned or like banned for doing it, but you're basically, your reach is being limited because of it.
Yeah, and TikTok is like incredibly advanced. Like if I can tell you anything, they literally told me, if I say, man, I'm effing mad right now, that's fine, you can say that. But if I say, yo, F you, man, it will hurt you. And no one needs to be there to monitor you. It will hurt you because it can pick up your language and knows.
Yeah, it's the AI.
And that goes for videos, and that goes for live. And I learned a lot over this like couple weeks, because they have these webinars and things of that nature, and you have to join whatever to qualify. Anyway, they teach you a lot, and it makes you realize, like, if you put a kick logo I think that they can figure that out. Like,
Right.
I don't know for sure, but you're right. Like putting all that stuff on there can hurt you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's awesome though. Like I said, I'm glad that despite
yeah.
whatever's going on with Facebook, man, I'm glad to see that you're thriving on other platforms and you're doing great things. Keep doing what you're doing, man. We love you and look forward to seeing more of you. And hopefully we can get something going down the road even more. So I didn't know
No,
how much time you had
absolutely.
for this conversation, and I know we're already at 2 hours, and I know
I had
you've
a
probably got
I
things
had
to
a
do.
pretty I had a pretty for the most part free day, so I'm happy that it works. It worked out. I do want to say it to you too, though. Like I'm proud of you and what I see in you. Like just I think everyone who starts out when they stream, you know, you talk a certain way, and I don't know if you want to call it confidence, which I don't think you've ever lacked in or anything like that sort. But just like I love where you're at now. I love seeing like especially like I mean your room's freaking dope by the way. That stream room's freaking sick. Like that is dope. But just like where you've come from when you started, because I remember talking to you before you started, and
Right.
now you've been on your journey, and it's cool to see. Like I'm glad I've been able to tune in every now and then to like just catch up, and I'd love to do that a lot more. And I don't know if Beard King was here earlier.
He was.
Morgan, but I haven't talked to Morgan in forever, and I saw that I actually learned just the other day that he hasn't, I guess he hasn't been live,
Yeah, he had to pick up
or
a job. I think he just got promoted too.
but that's all. See that?
Yeah.
But that's great. Yeah. Anyway, I was just thinking about him earlier. But anyway,
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
yeah, I
Well,
think it's really cool.
all right, brother, man. Hey, go hang out with your family, man. Enjoy the day. I don't know. Are you going live tonight?
No, not today.
No?
I'm taking some time.
Yeah, man.
So.
Yeah. Get some time in. Again, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here, supporting this this new endeavor that I'm doing, and I look forward to seeing more of you and talking to you more offline, man.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Thank you for having me, Bray.
Hey, you know it.
Peace out, man.
Later, dude.
You kiss me?
A little piece.